Jefferson, in 1802, he wrote a letter to the Danbury Baptist Association, and he used what is known as the metaphor of the wall. And actually, he probably got this metaphor of the wall from Roger Williams long before him, but he didn't give him credit if he did. Notice what he had to say to the Danbury Baptists. Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions. I contemplate with sovereign reverence that act of the whole American people, which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. You know what? I think Thomas Jefferson knew much better what the First Amendment to the Constitution meant than the Christian revisionists who want to rewrite it and reinterpret it today. Because he was nearer to the event and he actually participated in it. By the way, do you know that the third clause of the First Amendment to the Constitution has to do with civil rights? Isn't it interesting that in the First Amendment you have these two things? The first two clauses deal with religious freedom, and the last part of the First Amendment deals with civil liberty. Thus encased, folks, within the First Amendment to the Constitution, one of the founding documents of the United States, you have this idea of two kingdoms. In the Declaration of Independence, in the Constitution, and in the Bill of Rights, you have this idea of separation of church and state. You know, the third clause, having to do with civil liberty, guarantees freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, and freedom to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Let me ask you, are those civil rights? Yes. And so in the First Amendment, you have religious rights and you have civil rights contained within the same amendment. So what is it that is going to happen according to Bible prophecy? According to Bible prophecy, this beast that arose from the earth, that at first sustained the idea that this is one nation having two kingdoms separate from one another, church and state, where you could be actually a citizen of both within the same country, where Congress could make no law respecting an establishment of religion, nor forbidding the free exercise of religion. Prophecy tells us that this nation is going to repudiate those principles, because we're told in Revelation 13 that this beast had two horns like a lamb, which we've clearly identified as these two kingdoms, which represent the church and the state, and the derived ideas of freedom of religion and also civil freedom. What's going to happen is this country is going to repudiate these two principles, and it is going to speak like a dragon. In other words, it is going to become a persecuting power. Like the dragon tried to kill the child when the child was born. That was Rome, by the way. Like the dragon tried to destroy the woman in the wilderness during the 1260 years. That was another Rome, by the way. This same Rome, at the end of time, will recover the sword. And the most unlikely of all nations will be the nation that will return the sword to this sea beast, so that it can once again persecute the saints of the Most High. You know, I pray to God that this wouldn't happen. That as people hear what I'm presenting and watch it on television, they say, wow, you know, this is an amazing history of the United States of America. We can't allow this to happen. We cannot allow this church to use the United States of America to accomplish its purposes. We cannot have another Middle Ages. We must stand firm with our principles upon which our nation was established. I pray to God that that would happen. The Bible prophecy tells us that as God has announced things are going to happen, they happen because God knows the end from the beginning. He does not determine them that way, but He knows that they're going to occur because He knows the end from the beginning. I pray that in this final conflict, we will choose to be on the right side.